What is up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. It is raining again in the background of my videos because apparently that's just the weather forecast for the rest of eternity in North Carolina. And if you live here, you understand. You understand what it's like. So thank you to all of you guys that have not minded the fact that it's just been pouring in the background of half of my videos lately. So today we are going to be speaking about the disappearance of 20-year-old Alexis Scott, who vanished from Peoria, Illinois on the 22nd, which was a Friday of September 2017, into technically the 23rd of September 2017. Now, this has been one of my most highly requested cases. I'm talking like top 20. And after researching it, I can completely understand why. You guys are constantly suggesting that I look into this case and research it and hopefully create a video that gives you a better understanding, because this case confused the absolute crap out of me. First of all, my heart is breaking for her mother. I have watched and listened to numerous interviews with her at this point, and I have zero idea how she remains so level-headed when speaking about some of the very horrifying things that have happened to her daughter. She is so strong, she is so dedicated, and I'm really glad she has a good group of people supporting her while she's going through this and trying to find her daughter. The level of confusion that I encountered while researching this case absolutely astounded me. It almost seemed like resources had played telephone, and along the way the story kept getting changed to the point where by the end some resources were telling an entirely different story, and that's not something that is uncommon to see. Unfortunately, sometimes that's just what happens, and typically when it does, I do some extra footwork to get to the bottom of it and figure out which resources may have heard things wrong, and I try to kind of clear everything up. But when this happened and I tried to dig deeper, I actually found that all of these contradicting facts that I was finding really are just a part of this story. So this is going to be an interesting one to get through. It's going to be confusing. I highly recommend what I always do, which is go out and do your own research after this. This is just a starting point to go out from here and figure things out for yourself. I highly recommend all the different podcasts on this case, especially the Vanished podcast, where it's basically one giant interview with April, Alexis's mom. Before I get into any further details, I need to say a huge thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video. They've saved my internet safety quite a handful of times already, which I'm very appreciative of, and you guys know that I'm a huge fan of NordVPN. And for those of you who aren't even aware of what it is, NordVPN is a virtual private network that helps to protect your identity and your private information while you're browsing online, which ironically kind of ties into internet safety in regards to this case. So I feel like we all typically have apps constantly running on our computers, on our mobile devices. We store a lot of things like passwords or credit card information or, other private information, and we assume that because it's on our personal devices that it's not being leaked out into the internet through internet use. And unfortunately, that's just not the case, and I feel like we need to do a lot more to ensure that all of our information is kept in our hands and nobody else's. So with NordVPN, that's exactly what they do. They protect your internet safety and your privacy. You can have up to 6 simultaneous connections at one time to make sure all of your devices are covered. There's absolutely no data logging, which is important to me. There's also 24/7 customer service and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you are not satisfied for whatever reason. One of my favorite perks that I feel like a lot of you would probably enjoy, because I'm asked about this all the time when I speak of different documentaries, is that it also allows you access to different entertainment platforms that you might not typically have access to in your own country. So you can watch different movies, different documentaries. Also super easy to use NordVPN. I actually have just a little app on my phone that opens up, and it's really easy to connect and disconnect or change my server. And there's also a Chrome browser extension. It's quite literally as easy as a few buttons to press and you are protected. Right now, NordVPN is offering my subscribers a 2-year plan with a huge discount plus 1 month for free. All you have to do is go to nordvpn.com/Danielle and use code Danielle at checkout. Thank you again to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the details. So Alexis went missing from Peoria, Illinois, and that will probably ring a bell to quite a few of you that have been very invested in Robert B.'s case. I did do a video on it, and just like many of the cases in Peoria, it remains unsolved. Alexis' case does. with a family that feels like it was not properly investigated. This seems to be a pattern for a lot of people in Peoria that go missing or have an unsolved murder case. And a lot seems similar here in certain ways, where people talk a lot, but not to police, and drugs and alcohol seem to have clouded a lot of people's memories, and no one can really tell rumors from truth. According to the things that were said about Alexis, she was very close to her family. She grew up with brothers and sisters, and she seemed to have a relatively good relationship with her mother. In 2015, she went on to have a son, and he had just turned 2 actually around the time of her disappearance, I think in July, so about 2 months before she went missing. And she had also apparently just gotten out of a not so great relationship. I've heard her mom state that the man was abusive to her. I believe this was her son's father, and they were kind of an on and off unhealthy relationship. And back in June or July as well, she had just moved back in with her mother and her brother, along with her son, to kind of get away from that situation. But from what I'm also understanding, it wasn't like a constant threat. It was just a bad relationship, and he moved away, she moved away. That was that. At this point, she was kind of trying to figure her life out. She was only 20 years old. She had a 2-year-old son. The family that she kind of hoped to have fell apart, and her mom noticed her go through a lot in this time period. She appeared to be going through some sort of depression. She was finding new friends. She was experimenting a lot with life to figure out where she fit in. And I feel like 20-year-olds go through that already, but because she had this added, layer of a child and that child's father not being in the picture anymore, it just was a little bit more stressful for her. But despite a lot of the struggles that she went through, she was one that always lived life to the fullest. And when I say that, I freaking mean it. I've been all over this girl's Facebook page, and she has a good time. She loved to have fun. She loved to be with friends. She was very outspoken, and she was also someone who, no matter what, managed to find the good in a situation. And you will see that later on when I'm speaking about a very scary circumstance she went through. She always found the good, and she highlighted it. She was never one to linger on the bad. But unfortunately, this may have also led to her disappearance. This desire to always have fun and push boundaries and kind of like feeling invincible, as most 20-year-olds do. So on Friday, September 22nd, 2017, Alexis, her mother, her brother, and her son were all at the family home. And at around 9 o'clock, her mother, April, and her son went to bed, and she stayed up to hang out with her brother. This was a typical Friday night for everyone, but the next morning when April woke up, she noticed that Alexis wasn't home. And this wasn't entirely out of character for her. She spent a lot of weeknights out with her friends. After her son went to bed and she knew that her brother and mother were there to take care of him if anything happened, she would typically leave, go hang out with friends, but she always came home before sunrise to take care of him. And this weekend in particular, her not being there that Saturday morning was odd because she had actually made plans with her mom for that entire weekend. So April asked her son, did she leave last night? Do you know where she is? Do you know what's going on? And he said that they had been hanging out that night, and then at around sometime between 11 and midnight, she headed out, got into a car, and left. And he hadn't heard from her or seen her since. So without assuming the worst at this point, April decided to call Alexis and see when she'd be back so they could move on with their weekend plans, but Alexis wasn't answering. And this kind of went on the rest of the day. They still thought it was strange because it would usually say, hey, I'm heading out for a few days. Would you mind watching him over the weekend? It was never usually an issue. She had a lot of different friends that also loved to watch him while she went out and did things. So it was very strange that she hadn't given a heads up, but they were again trying not to look too deep into it. April thought that by the absolute latest, Alexis would be home by that Monday into that next Tuesday. So by Sunday, it got later in the day. Alexis still wasn't home. She still wasn't answering calls. So April went on her Facebook and was asking anyone, hey, has anyone seen Alexis? And no one seemed to see her. So she went into Monday hopeful, but when she got home from work, Alexis still was not home. And at this point, she was sending Alexis text messages or messages through Facebook because at the time her phone was not activated. She was only on Wi-Fi. So she was like, maybe it's just a situation where she's not connected to Wi-Fi. She doesn't really have a lot of ways to reach out. But she was like, look, if you don't contact me back, I'm going to report you as missing. But Alexis still didn't contact her. By Tuesday, the 26th, Alexis still wasn't home. And April had told herself that, maybe by the time I get home from work, she'll be there and I won't have to worry about it. This is, again, not uncommon. A lot of people don't want to immediately report a loved one missing because that kind of solidifies what's going on. And I feel like this was exactly how April was feeling in this moment, that she was hoping she would just come home from work and Alexis would be there like she always was. So on her way home, before stopping to check if Alexis was there, she decided to stop by where one of Alexis's friends worked to see if he had maybe seen her. And this was at, I think, a local gas station. And she was like, hey, I haven't seen Alexis in a few days. When's the last time you've spoken to her? And this guy was like, oh, well, actually, I saw her this weekend. This guy said that on Friday the 22nd, the day that Alexis went out between 11 and 12, it was actually him and another male friend that picked Alexis up from her home. He claimed that they spent the night out. They were smoking a blunt. They were, hanging out that night, driving around. And he said that at some point when things were winding down, he was ready to go home and go to bed. Alexis was messaging someone about going to another party on Richmond Avenue in Peoria. And both of the guys that she was with were not invited. So the one decided to go home and go to bed, and the man that was driving the car decided he would just take her to this party, and then he would also call it for the night. So April's like, okay. So she went to a party, can you get me in contact with this other male friend y'all were with? Maybe he can tell me what the address was. So sure enough, a call was made, and this guy corroborated exactly what the other guy had told Alexis's mom. He said that he actually first dropped Alexis off at her house so that she could change her clothes, and then from there he dropped her off somewhere on Richmond Avenue in Peoria. And he couldn't say the exact address because it appeared that all of the houses there had people out on the front porch. It's like a little cluster of 4 houses. I'll show it on the map. And so he's not sure which one she went to, but he knows that he dropped her off somewhere around 5 a.m. and that she was supposed to meet a guy who was going to smoke with her. And then he left and he didn't see her again. April immediately ran with this information. Before gathering a search party of her own to check out this area, she asked her son if he had heard Alexis come home that night, if he had seen her, if she said that she was going to this party, the guy that she was going to meet. And Alexis's brother made a pretty good point. He said that Alexis didn't have keys to the house, which she didn't. Meaning that if she had come back to the house, it was very typical for her to come and knock on his window so that he could wake up and come and let her inside. And he said the whole night into the early morning hours of the 23rd, Alexis never came back. So that was already throwing both of these guys' stories into question. That's just one of the many confusing stories that end up being told throughout this entire case. So from this point, April is confused, and they decide to get friends and family together to begin to canvass the area on Richmond Avenue, and police were notified that this was in fact the last place she was known to be. Now, to kind of describe the location, it's off of what appears to be a main road. There's like a Burger King, there's a car wash, there's all sorts of businesses up and down, and then the houses are almost directly off of that, like directly behind all those businesses, in a cluster of 4. They searched all throughout the area. They searched for any sign of Alexis, any of her clothes that she was wearing, the phone that she maybe had that night. And unfortunately, they just didn't seem to be turning up anything. But they did notice something strange, and that was the house that April had been at the previous Saturday, and the search happened on a Sunday. They noticed that the house she was at was being power washed, and it was just something that kind of caught their attention that they thought was a little bit odd, and they did report it to police, but police basically brushed it off. That same exact day, according to authorities, October 1st, 2017, they also showed up to the home in the 100 block of Richmond Avenue to speak to the residents about the party. Now, apparently, the people that hosted the party were the sons, or at least the children, of a woman who actually owned the house, and it was a consent search. They did not disagree to having this search conducted, and authorities said that they didn't necessarily find anything out of the ordinary. The host told authorities that they didn't really know Alexis very well, but she had been at the party that night. They said there were about 12 or so other people there, and they even said that it wasn't even a party. It was just a few people hanging out, and authorities were able to get a list of all of the individuals that had been there and were able to question everyone, thinking they would get some sort of clear direction on where Alexis went, who she may have left with, but unfortunately it ended up just kind of adding to the confusion. Many people did in fact claim to see Alexis there, but all of their stories seem to differ. Some people claimed that she was sitting on the porch, but they didn't see her arrive, and they also didn't see her leave. There were some people that said that she actually left the house and came back quite a handful of times, but they didn't know where she went the times that she left, or again, how she came or how she left. Some of them claim that she also left almost immediately after arriving, but again, they couldn't say how. Others claimed that she got into a dark Impala with tinted windows and left. There was actually one girl that was waiting for a ride, and she thought this dark Impala or this dark car that pulled up was her ride, and it wasn't. And when she made that mistake, Alexis came and got in the car instead. We have so many different stories so far on how she came, when she was there, how long she was there, how she left. There's just a lot going on here, and it didn't solidify anything. And then ultimately, after questioning these individuals quite a handful of times, most of them changed their mind and said that they were probably way too intoxicated to properly remember what actually happened that night. So there's no telling if there's any truth whatsoever to anything that they said, because they could have just been too drunk or high to remember it. This left authorities scratching their head because Alexis didn't have a car. So someone had to have either given her a ride away from the home, possibly someone that was at the party, or she would have had to call someone or contact someone through a phone, or she would have had to have called a cab, or she could have taken a 10-minute walk to her home in the dark. I think it was about 5 blocks away. But according to Alexis's phone records, her last usage of her phone was at 5:08 a.m. And this last communication was her speaking to someone at the party about getting there. So she had not quite arrived yet, and these last messages, this last use of her phone at 5:08, and then after she arrived at the party, there was absolutely nothing. So this meant that basically right after she had been dropped off, all known activity from her with anyone outside of this party is kind of cut off, unless she used someone else's phone, which apparently was something pretty big that she did. But we know that she likely didn't call a cab or get a ride from a party goer. She at least didn't call a cab from her own phone. None of the party goers admitted to giving her a ride. So authorities believed she likely walked home. And if she walked home, this should have been captured on surveillance footage from either the car wash or the Burger King there, or one of the many different public places that was all along the main road. But when authorities gathered surveillance footage from this particular car wash directly across the street, they weren't able to corroborate any way that Alexis came or went, which made absolutely no sense. They couldn't tell how Alexis arrived. They couldn't see if she left on foot or if she left in a car. None of the stories that the individuals told them had been corroborated. And as if this isn't confusing enough, another strange tip came in, because you'd think at this point they could at least corroborate seeing the friends drop her off there, but they couldn't corroborate that either, apparently. But it got even worse when another person came forward claiming to be the one that dropped Alexis off that early morning. So a female cab driver came forward and stated that she was the one who took Alexis to the party on Richmond Avenue that early morning. This cab driver, I guess, was a cab driver and also worked for Lyft, I believe, and she said that she knew Alexis pretty well, and Alexis would always personally contact her when she needed a ride somewhere. Now, this kind of creates a problem in my mind, because that means that I don't know if any of this was captured in any sort of way. Like, I don't know if there is a Lyft ride ticket to prove it. I don't know if there is, cab fare to prove it. I don't know if this was just like a personal favor for a friend, but this cab driver said that they picked her up, and took her to this party on Richmond Avenue between 4 and 4:30 a.m. So this is a whole hour to half an hour earlier than the friends said that they dropped her off. And according to the friends, they had been together during that time. So there's no way she could have taken a cab earlier that time unless someone here is not being truthful. The cab driver said that she remembers that Alexis stated she wasn't going to be at the party for very long because she had to go home to her son, which, kind of matches up to what her mom said, that she would try to be home before sunrise. She also said that a man greeted Alexis at the cab, paid for the cab fare, and then they went inside. So this also matches the idea that she was going to meet a specific guy there. So we at least know this cab driver that comes out of the blue, knows Alexis, knows she has a son, knew about this party, knew the location of the party, But who here is lying and who is telling the truth? What about the male friends that claim to have dropped her off and claim to have been with her that entire night up until that point? They also knew about the party location, and they couldn't have dropped her off there if the cab did. For a moment, I maybe considered that the party goers were right, that maybe Alexis did in fact kind of leave and come back and leave and come back, but the time frame in which these two separate individuals claim to have dropped her off don't add up. If the cab driver dropped her off at 4 to 4:30 and she spent the whole night with the friends and they didn't drop her off till 5, 1 + 1 does not equal 2 here. One thing I will say is that the friends didn't seem to know the exact address that she was kind of going to. Obviously, this could have been for the exact reasons that they stated, or maybe she just told them verbally, hey, I'm going to a party on Richmond Avenue, and then that's how they knew it. But then why would they in turn lie about being the ones to take her there? But this paired with the fact that they claimed to drop her off to change her clothes at a house that she didn't have keys to and couldn't get into, you can see here that something is very suspicious and makes no sense. So then you want to lean towards the cab driver being correct, but authorities have also stated that they can't confirm or corroborate anything. Like, there's no evidence of Alexis coming or leaving this party in the surveillance footage. So, like, are both of these people lying? It just blows my mind. But this is about to take a whole other turn that really has my mind spinning. The man who lived in the home on Richmond Avenue that told authorities he didn't know Alexis very well. This man knew her enough to go to Las Vegas with her and another female about a month prior, where Alexis apparently ended up in sex trafficking. So just a month prior, in August of 2017, Alexis got a job offer. Now, she didn't tell a lot of people the details necessarily. She didn't tell pretty much anything to her mother about this. She simply stated that she was going to work a party in Las Vegas for some extra money. She was going to be there for just the weekend, and she kind of wanted her mother's approval, but her mom did not approve. Obviously, Las Vegas is a very potentially dangerous and scary place for a 20-year-old to be by themselves. But the person that had offered this job had already bought her and her female friend plane tickets to go there. It was already all set up. The male was just going to accompany them. So she ended up going anyways. Now, I want to state that there's a lot of kind of like PC information in what I'm about to tell you. Different people say different things happened. I get a completely different idea of what happened from her Facebook page. It's just all a mess. So apparently on August 26th, which was a Saturday, according to her own Facebook page, this is when she headed out for Las Vegas. She spoke about getting on a plane, being nervous about it, but being really excited to go to Las Vegas. She, as I stated before, she was keeping in contact with family from what I've seen, but I'm not sure if she was directly speaking to her mom through text messages or Facebook messages, which is what they would typically use, or if her mother was just following her through social media. But she was pretty active. She was posting things all that day about going to Las Vegas, and then by the 27th, which was a Sunday, she was posting videos of arriving and being all dressed up, and it seems like they went out that Saturday night, and that was what was being posted about. She was talking about how crazy Las Vegas was and how it was so much crazier than Peoria. Her mom believed that by that following Monday, she was supposed to be on a return flight home. And this is stated in so many interviews that by that Monday, the 28th, she would be home. But she didn't come home. Now, from what I have seen or what I have gathered through interviews, it seems like a lot of people have said that there's kind of like a lack of communication at this point, that she goes silent on social media, that no one knows where she is. But by going through her Facebook posts, that's not necessarily true. She was still active on social media. There are some claims that it's not her posting, and I don't know her well enough to know which of these posts are hers, but from going through a good portion of her Facebook, I can see where some of them are strange, but it seems like majority of them are hers, but they are questionable, and I'll get into why. So on the 28th, the day she was supposed to come back, that Monday, she randomly posted that she needed someone to come and get her off the strip. So we know that on that Monday, she was still in Las Vegas, but she didn't really post much else. It was still kind of quiet, and I feel like that Monday, something strange kind of started to happen. Then on Tuesday, the 29th, she was posting again, but this time it was one of the weird posts. It was a picture of her with the caption being a quotation saying, "You a fake bad bitch." And it seems like the consensus in the comments below this picture are that Alexis didn't write this. And this was kind of immediately commented on with that sort of reaction. So I don't think it was kind of an afterthought situation. It almost seemed like someone posted this of her trying to mock her and say, you thought you were bad, but you're not. There's a few more kind of random posts that appeared to kind of be like her after this. After this, things kind of really are obviously not going well. At this point, it is Thursday the 31st, and she makes a post saying that she is stuck in California. So it appears that she was definitely in Las Vegas on Monday, but by Thursday, she's in California, and she said that someone stole her phone. Now, I personally question how she posted that because it's believed that at this point she had actually been put into some sort of sex trafficking situation. But if you're in sex trafficking, I don't think you're going to have access to any sort of phone to get in contact with anyone. So I wonder how she posted that. And then she continued to post until she got home. So the next day, September the 1st, she spoke about missing her son and that she was literally never leaving him again. So obviously something bad was happening to her at this point. And she also posted that her heart was dying, that she needed someone to talk to her, that she was being crushed, that she was the lowest she had ever been, and that she just wanted to come home. And she also goes on to speak later on that day about how people aren't actually in her corner that should be in her corner, that people she thought were her friends weren't there for her when she needed them, and then the people that she was pushing away were the ones that were showing up, and she was saying that she was going to cut people off and there would be no new friends. And then by the second, you see that she is on her way back to Peoria. She was saying that she wanted people to stop asking her questions and all of that. Now, that's everything I gathered from her social media. And in all of this, you can see her mom commenting like, where are you? Call me. And people were saying, your mom's trying to find you. Your mom's trying to help you. And she's responding to a lot of these. And she's like, no one's helping me. I only help myself. So I don't know what she was going through, but it was clearly something very bad. Now, that's what's happening on her Facebook page. According to different interviews that I've heard and bits of articles online, it seems that on that Monday, both the female friend and the male friend returned home on their return flight as they're supposed to. But for some reason, Alexis stayed. And there seems to be an explanation to this later on, but I kind of question it a little bit because it just doesn't match up with the time frame of what's going on social media. But April is under the impression that Alexis is supposed to be back Monday. So when she's not, and she's kind of posting these strange things on social media, April's panicking a little bit. So she's trying to figure out how to help her, who to get in touch with, and she does get in contact with a female that had been with Alexis, and this female claims to know that she was in California, and she was saying she was going to go and get her and bring her back, but then that didn't happen after a day or two. So April got in contact with her again, and she actually said, no, I actually don't know where Alexis is, and I can't go get her. So we've got just like more contradictions, and April just seemed to be running in circles trying to get her daughter. Her daughter was communicating to some people online, but not her, and it just seems like a very confusing situation. And then April gets a random phone call one day, which I'm assuming is sometime on the 1st of September. The woman on the other end of the line claimed that she had Alexis and that Alexis was safe, but that she had just found Alexis on the side of the road in Sacramento, California, like the strip in that area, and she was entirely naked. She had no belongings with her. She was very disoriented and confused and had said that she had been drugged and put into sex trafficking and escaped. The woman took her in. The woman had been on her way to Walmart, so she grabbed Alexis some clothing because she quite literally had not a single thing on her, and took her to her apartment to take care of her until she could get in contact with someone that could help Alexis. At this point, a bus ticket was bought, and it was arranged for her to be dropped off to the bus station, and then she was going to take the bus from, I think she actually left from somewhere in Nevada, all the way, I think it was Reno, and then she was going to head up to Chicago, and then she didn't want to take a bus, according to her social media, from Chicago to Peoria, so she was asking for people to pick her up. So the two guys who she had been driving around with the night of the 22nd, right before she went missing, they happened to be the two individuals that went to pick her up from Chicago to bring her back to Peoria. Alexis got home. She was incredibly shaken. She was covered in bruises, and I don't think April really knew the extent of what happened. Alexis was still being very guarded with what happened. She seemed to be the kind of person, like I was stating earlier, like she just tried to look at the positive of things and she would not dwell on any sort of negative. She just really moved past it. And I think that's kind of what she was trying to do at this point in time. She did make a Facebook post after this saying, a lot of things about her trip to Las Vegas and California, which also kind of skimmed over what happened. She mentions how crazy it was, that it was like something out of a movie. She said that she had a good time, but it was very scary and wild for about 48 hours. She said that she met a lot of good people, but a lot of very bad people as well. So you can't really get an understanding of what may have happened to her in that particular post she made. And I feel like still to this day, no one really knows what actually happened to her. She came home without her keys, because obviously they got lost somewhere along the way. She had none of her personal belongings with her, so that's why she had no keys and couldn't have gotten into her house the early morning hours of the 23rd of September. She also no longer had her phone, which we already knew because she posted that someone had taken it. Again, she was in some sort of trafficking situation, but she seemed to be posting that entire time, and I just don't know how she was doing that. There could be an explanation, and I'm just not seeing it, but I just thought that was kind of important to note. She also was talking a lot in some of her posts during the whole trip about meeting people, like trying to find people to meet, that she was making all sorts of friends. So it was very common of her to log into Facebook and post certain things through people's phones after she just met them because she didn't have her own, or she didn't have any Wi-Fi. So it's very possible she was just meeting certain people and was using their phone real quick. But at the same time, if you're in a trafficking situation being drugged, I don't see how you're going to have that access. So I just don't really understand that. Because she had logged into so many people's phones and she was kind of worried after this whole situation of losing her phone, she changed her Facebook password. And after she was home, she just kind of tried to move on. But you can see how this makes her disappearance on the 22nd much more questionable, because just 3 weeks prior, she had made claims that she was sex trafficked while in Las Vegas, that she had been taken from there to California. She was found naked on the side of the road, disoriented. The men that picked her up from her trafficking experience, when she was in Chicago, were also the ones that claimed to take her to the house party she was last seen at. But it also can't be corroborated that they actually dropped her off there, and their story doesn't fully add up. And then on top of that, the house that she was at, the person who was hosting the party was a guy that went with her to Las Vegas and then very easily left without her and questioning why she wasn't there, and then also said that they barely knew her. This is just a very sketchy situation. And I don't want any of that to come off as me not believing that she was trafficked, because that's not at all what I'm saying. I just think there's a deeper layer to this that maybe we don't know about. Now, after all of this happened, a woman ended up coming forward to April, and I believe it was someone that Alexis referred to as one of the hippie girls that she met. She spoke in her whole post about going to California and all that she met a group of hippie girls that were really nice, and they gave her bracelets and they gave her a book, and I believe it was likely one of them that messaged her. I don't know that. I'm just kind of connecting dots. But apparently Alexis had befriended this girl on the bus from Reno, Nevada to Chicago, and they'd become pretty good friends on social media afterwards. They exchanged numbers, contact information, and I think likely this woman got in contact with April because April was posting on her page, like, where are you? What are you doing? What's going on? And probably because Alexis just totally went silent on social media. This woman said that Alexis actually told her more details about what happened to her while she was in Las Vegas. So the woman said that Alexis had actually been hired to go to Las Vegas as an escort. That this man considered himself a party promoter, and he would hire women to be escorts or eye candy. He would hire women promising them he could get them a modeling career, or he had a position for them as a backup dancer. And for those of you that are familiar with trafficking and you've watched any of my videos on trafficking, that whole statement probably just put a huge knot in your stomach, because One big way, we literally just spoke about this in my last video, that traffickers draw someone in is that they advertise themselves as these party promoters, or I can get you all of these, good things. I have all these contacts. I can get you money. I can get you drugs. I can get you your dream job. I can get you in contact with like your dream person. And this is exactly what happened to Alexis. This person did exactly what we spoke about in my last video, made all these promises, offered her this dream job, in Las Vegas, come have a party basically, all the drugs, all the alcohol that you want, you make extra money. It seemed like a dream to her. She thought she was going to have the time of her life, and basically she got there and apparently immediately was told that the party was canceled. Now, I don't know many other details. I don't know if the party was supposed to be that Saturday night or if it was supposed to be that Sunday. I have no clue. All I know is that the party was canceled and they were not told before they boarded the plane to go there. It apparently had been canceled for a while, which I think is strange because apparently on the 25th, just days before they left, is when this man bought them all tickets. So they decided, I guess, to just have a good time while they were there. According to what she told this girl that she met on the bus, at one point during all of this, it had to have been before this girl flew back on Monday that she was with. Now, according to what Alexis told this girl from the bus, her and the female friend she was with were in a car and they were heading to Sacramento, California. So there were plans to head there. I don't know where the male was. I don't know who was driving them. I don't know if it was the girl that was driving, if they rented a car. I don't know the situation. I think it was maybe a man that she had met, according to some sources. A man she met in Las Vegas she was going with her female friend. They were in the car all together, drinking and smoking, and then all of a sudden Alexis blacked out. Apparently when she came to, her friend was no longer in the car, the female friend. Female friend was gone. Now, keep in mind that they're on the way to Sacramento, California, but somehow this female friend that she was with vanished from being in the car on the way to Sacramento, California, ended back in Las Vegas where she was supposed to be with the male who I'm assuming was left there, and they made their return flight home perfectly fine and didn't mention Alexis being gone. Very strange. But this man that she was in the car with, she did not know this man. I don't know if it was the same man she left with. It doesn't seem like it based on what is being said. But apparently, she immediately knew she was in a bad situation. She said that she was asking this man, where were they? What is going on? She was asking to go to the bathroom, and this guy wouldn't let her out of the car. Finally, he agreed to stop, but he said, there's people around where we're at. If you look at anyone, if you signal to anyone, if you run, I will find you. So again, anyone familiar with sex trafficking, basically it's I have you captive. If you let anyone know I have you captive, there's a big problem here. So I don't know what happened after this. All I know is that this man had her, and apparently she claimed that afterwards she was basically drugged and sex trafficked. And eventually she escaped. Now, she did apparently manage to get on this guy's laptop while they were at one of the hotel rooms that they stayed in California. I don't know if that's how she made a few posts on Facebook. I doubt she would log into her own Facebook on this trafficker's laptop, but you never know. But she was able to get his name while she did this, and apparently his name was Chris. But this whole story was handed over to police. April gave this woman's contact information to police. Unfortunately, she's not been contacted about it, which has really frustrated April. But this made many people speculate that the friends that went with her were somehow involved in this sex trafficking scheme, because the female friend was with her and then suddenly wasn't. They had been on their way to Sacramento and suddenly the female disappears, is back where she's supposed to be, and gets home right on time. No one, when they arrive back, they don't alert to anyone that Alexis wasn't back home. According to this girl's own post that she put onto Alexis's Facebook page when Alexis was saying she was scared of the flight down to Las Vegas, she was like, oh, I've got your back, I've got you, this whole trip. Apparently not, when you didn't wonder why she never came back with you. And also on top of that, if this is a trafficking situation, if they made this friend in Las Vegas, this random friend in Las Vegas, and this person wanted to drive them to Sacramento, this this friend isn't magically going to end up not being one of the sex trafficking victims. If you are a part of it, if you were in the car and this is a sex trafficking situation, one of you is not being let free. So that's just another thing that made a lot of people believe this was one gigantic plan, one big scheme. And on top of that, this is a tactic that's commonly used. Alexis had only known these people for, I think, less than a year, around a year mark. And that means that she'd established some sort of trust with them, obviously enough to travel out of town with them. And if they had been drinking and smoking, Alexis would not have questioned anything about it because this is someone she believed she could trust, and that would make it that much easier for this young woman to slip something into the drink that Alexis was drinking. So she passed out. So, you know, they could take Alexis where she's supposed to go and the girl can slip out and go home as if nothing ever happened. A friend ended up coming forward saying that, you know, she had evidence. She could send April this message from this guy where apparently Alexis was worried that someone was coming for her, someone was coming after her. And this girl sent this message to April, and it was very scary. She seemed to have mentioned it to a few other people that she was worried someone was watching her and that her traffickers were going to come and get her to punish her for running away. But the same girl that came forward saying she had this message and was so worried about Alexis was actually someone that Alexis had a falling out with in August before she went to Las Vegas. And this girl was also supposed to go to Las Vegas, but for some reason she didn't. Now, another reason that this is like a very sketchy situation is that this girl came forward and offered this information up to April, but didn't tell April that she also had access to Alexis's Facebook page, which, if you remember, Alexis hadn't spoken to this girl, according to this girl, since August. When Alexis got home, she changed her password. Now, all of a sudden, this girl still has access to Alexis's Facebook page despite not talking to her and Alexis changing her password. There just seems to be something so strange about that. Then in October, April received another message that really made her very upset. She was actually on her way to a city council meeting to complain that authorities were not doing pretty much anything in her daughter's case, because it really doesn't seem like they have. I have not even seen a bunch of news articles talking about police activity and what they're doing. When I looked this up, basically all the information I've gotten is from other podcasters and different people that have come forward on a specific Facebook page about this. She was going to speak out and say she wanted help, and while she was on her way, this person messaged her saying that a woman had been going around saying that she had just sold Alexis to a man 2 weeks prior, which would have been right around the time that she went missing. So you even have people saying, yeah, someone's literally saying that they sold her, that someone captured her, put her back in sex trafficking. And that paired with the fact that Alexis was clearly saying she thought she was being watched. She told her mom that these people knew where she lived. It's very likely that these traffickers found her again. And if she was not connecting the dots that these individuals from the party and from Las Vegas were possibly in on this, she was basically walking back into a trap without even knowing it. All of this information has been taken to authorities, but authorities have pretty much dismissed most of it according to what April has said. Because authorities didn't really do anything when April informed them that someone said that they sold Alexis into trafficking, she decided to go ahead and contact people on her own. She contacted different agencies that work directly to fight against human trafficking. The FBI has been contacted. There are apparently numerous different agencies where there are case numbers for Alexis, but no one really knows the status of it. Alexis' mom has not been contacted by the FBI, at least she hasn't as of, late that I've seen. The different agencies that do work directly in human trafficking said specifically they would not contact her back to let her know anything, which again is probably trying to protect the integrity, but at least they say they're not going to contact her about it. But again, it just seems like she's trying and she's trying and she's pushing and she's pushing and she's handing over everything she can. And she's reaching out to every resource, and it's just like no one's responding to her. And as a mother myself, I could not imagine how frustrating that would be. I would have lost every single last one of my marbles. April's had to do a lot of the footwork on her own, and that even includes reaching out to the man that went to Las Vegas with her, the man that hosted the party, and she wanted to hear his version of events. And even again, it's just one story after another after another. So initially, this man said that Alexis left on foot that night, sometime between 5 and 5:30, which seems to be when everyone says that she left, for the most part. And he said she left heading the direction of her home, which again should have been about a 10-minute walk away from this house. But then when he was asked again to kind of confirm details, this time he totally changed his story, saying that she was walking the opposite direction. And then he changed his story a third time, saying that he was in the backyard and actually couldn't see how she left because you can't see the front yard from the backyard. And I've looked on Google Maps, and unless you're standing like all the way to the side of the house along the back side of the fence, you can maybe see some of the front yard, but for the most part, you can't really see anything, which then makes the fourth story he told make even less sense, because he claimed, like others, that she left in a dark Impala and he was in the backyard and he saw her leave from the front, which contradicts what he just said in his previous story. I'm honestly kind of surprised he even spoke to April, but I kind of have my own bizarre theory about this that I will get into briefly at the end of this video. So in November, authorities did decide to go back to the home. This time they went with a warrant to search, but apparently they didn't find anything that really stood out. However, at this point it had been 2 months, and I know they did take a few things from the home, but I don't know if any of them were directly related to Alexis. I do know that another tip aside from the power washing was also brought into authorities. From my understanding, I believe that someone in the house posted on Facebook or posted somewhere that they were in need of a washer and dryer to be immediately removed from this home where the party was. And this post was put up, I believe, like 3 hours after the party ended. So we're talking early morning on a Saturday after an entire night of partying, drinking, smoking, all sorts of drugs. And so it was very weird that they, after all of that, were still awake and randomly decided that they immediately needed a washer and dryer removed from the home. They were willing to pay cash for it. I know that authorities have chalked a lot of this up to, this house needed to be cleaned. Apparently the city needed this house to be cleaned up, or they were threatening to fine the family for it. Now, the power washing apparently was not a part of that. I believe I've already stated that. The city didn't require them to power wash, so that was something they chose to do, which a lot of people believe is cleaning something up. However, maybe they did just want to take it the extra mile. We don't know. But the washer and dryer thing is also a bit strange, and I have heard it stated that the police said that this wasn't anything to be concerned about because there were people that typically handled washers and dryers and fixed them or something. But I don't know if they meant that as in the people at the house would take in washers and dryers and fix them and resell them or something. I don't know exactly what it means, or if they just said the people who picked them up possibly worked with washers and dryers. A lot of the things that have been said are not very clear. It could have easily just been possibly a washer and dryer that had been sitting out back of the house that people were complaining about and they needed it removed then. I don't know when the deadline for cleaning the house was. I just feel like I can't really speak on a lot of it because I just don't know enough details. But they thought it was strange enough to report it to the police. But the next tip that came in is one that has absolutely just blown my mind because this one is absolutely suspicious, kind of no questions asked. A man came forward saying that the homeowners of the home requested help moving items from the home, again, the same morning after the party. So the same day with the washer and dryer, just hours after Alexis went missing. And the homeowners wanted the items to be taken away in a U-Haul to way outside of Peoria to be burned. And this obviously is very suspicious and was suspicious enough that authorities wanted to search this. But it became even more disturbing when this person said that they opened up the U-Haul doors and saw more blood than they had ever seen in their whole life. Now, this individual gave authorities items that had been taken from the home that they would find in the burn pile. Where the burn pile was, I don't know if they've ever been able to find the U-Haul that was used and, use luminol on it, or any forensic testing to possibly get any DNA that suggests possibly there was blood inside of this U-Haul. But I do know they took cadaver dogs to the location that was told to them outside of Peoria, and they were able to find a burn pile. There was a burn pile. It did contain some of the items that this person said they would find. 2019 April did admit that everything I've spoken of so far is indicative that Alexis is no longer alive, but this has not been labeled a homicide investigation or a death investigation. So far, it's still a missing persons case. I know that in 2020, they were searching the Illinois River, the banks of it, looking for signs of life, and they said they had reason to believe she may have been there alive. So I find that very interesting, but I don't think they found anything. I know that authorities have done a handful of other searches with cadaver dogs and boats, and they've checked other places, but nothing, to my knowledge, has been found. But I do know that as of late 2020, pretty much as of last summer, family and friends still believe authorities are not putting enough attention in this case. They decided to hold a silent protest outside of the car wash across from where Alexis was last seen, saying that authorities need to make her case and other cold Peoria cases a priority. They apparently don't have a cold case unit still, and no one's putting the attention into these cases like they should to help solve them. While I can't say if authorities are or are not following up every single lead, I do know that there are a lot of updates on the Facebook page that I have linked down below for Alexis. The woman that runs it was originally from Peoria. She has since moved, but still very, very adamantly runs this page, is constantly updating. There was an update even as of a week ago where they were asking for volunteers for searches. So if you are one of the many people that live in Peoria that watch this channel and you are looking for a way to help, I know they are constantly asking for help searching in different locations. They also have shown up to city council meetings to demand help. They have been taking in their own tips. They've been following their own leads. This Facebook page has done a lot for Alexis and for Alexis's mom. There's also a GoFundMe that's been created to help Alexis's mom take care of her son. I know that she has been trying to get guardianship of him, but I have not seen if that has been successful or not. She just needs a little bit of help in taking care of him, and I have seen that they want to get a PI, but I don't know if that is still the case, but I'm going to assume that it is, so I've personally donated to this GoFundMe, and I suggest those of you that can to do so as well. It's just a confusing mess, but I want to kind of give some details about Alexis because she has a lot of different identifying features on her. She's 5'1". She was about 115 pounds at the time of her disappearance. She had a lot of different scarring, tattoos, and piercings. She had both of her ears pierced and her nose pierced, and she had a scar where she used to have her lip pierced. She also has scarring on her abdomen from having a child. She had a couple of tattoos. She had the word royalty on the inside of her left arm. She had Trayvon on her right wrist, Tevin Jr. on her right collarbone, and Lily on her left collarbone, as well as paw prints all along her right shoulder. One other huge identifying feature is that she used to have braces on the bottom on her bottom teeth, and she had actually pulled the wire off herself, but the brackets were still there, and they're a little bit difficult to get off, so if she is still out there, it's a huge chance that they're still on her teeth. I just have a lot of questions after looking into this case. I personally just don't understand how there's so many people making so many claims of things they saw and things they did with nothing to back it up. Like, why did the friends say that they dropped her off, but surveillance can't prove how she came or went? Why did this cab driver say they dropped her off at 4 to 4:30 if her last communication saying she was about to be there was at 5:08, which matched the time that the friends said they dropped her off? You know, I just am not understanding how any of this is being connected. I don't know if they've looked into records from this cab company, or again, if this was just someone trying to be nice and just did it on their off time. I'm just really confused right now. And at this point, I believe that all of these muddled voices could potentially be exactly what they want. Because the more muddled voices that you add to the mix, the more confusing it gets and the harder it is to pick out the truth. So maybe the reason why there's so many changes and contradictions and so many people coming forward with so many random things that can't be proven is because of that, is to do it on purpose. Because when everyone doesn't have a straight story, you drown in that, and investigators cannot narrow anything down when they have that many people saying so many different things that can't be backed up. It's not like you can point to one person and say, you're suspicious, because yeah, they're suspicious, but this other person that seems like a friend, they kind of seem suspicious too because someone else has come to contradict them. So it's just, I think it's possibly a big, bizarre tactic to throw off authorities. I could totally be wrong, but it's just at this point, I don't know what else to believe is happening. There is a huge possibility that Alexis is out there being trafficked. She has escaped once. Maybe she will escape again, or maybe something worse happened to her. We just don't know. And so far, there has been nothing to indicate that she is no longer alive. So obviously, we will hope that she is. Again, please go follow the Facebook page and donate to the GoFundMe if you are able. And thank you for taking the time to listen to Alexis' story and try to understand it. Again, I encourage you guys to go and do your own research. This is just a starting point. There's so much information out there. There's so many different interviews. There's so much that is unknown. But that is all that I have for you guys today. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below to become a part of the Howland fam so that we can hopefully bring them home together. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.